Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, all U.S. Constitution protects all lives matter members out there and their family. And good morning to our dear President, Donald J. Trump, and J.D. Vance, our Vice President, and their families. Good morning to our FBI Director, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, our AG, who is guiding all these individuals to success. You know, it takes a nation under God, and we are invincible. And we do have liberty, and we do have justice for all. Now that Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel are culling through all the rogue agents that have infected the United States government, including federal and state judges, federal prosecutors, and state prosecutors. And with Rizzoli versus the Executive Office, U.S. Attorney et al., under appeal in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York, 25-1580 is the docket number. We will succeed, and we will show and prove that the Italian Americans and other ethnics backgrounds were targeted illegally and wrongfully, along with Roman Catholics, by rogue federal agents. Another area that was, targeted was our economy. Our economy, meaning our food source, our chain stores. Our chain stores was consumed and brand labels bought by out-of-country companies, and they were bankrupted. Walbaum's, Grand Union, A&P, Pathmark, King Cullen, which is only a few around, Food Towns, which is only a few around. And these stores were bankrupted, and now we have those parent companies coming in to our areas and opening up their stores under their names. Economic terrorism works in many fashions. But remember one thing. You got Saba supermarkets, which bought A&P, which bought Pathmark, which owns several other individual new pop-ups in our area, in the New York metropolitan area. But what can you do when you have such problems like that? You look deep root to the problem, deep-rooted problems. Because years ago, an individual company could not own 100% like this here, because it was to protect the individual U.S. economy. Now you have communist-backed companies, communist-backed organizations like Black Lives Matter Movement Incorporated, who have infiltrated state and federal jobs and key positions in the courts and alter evidence and stuff that is seen by the judge. That is impeding access to the courts. That's a violation of law. These individuals are being called out by Donald Trump's fantastic team and appointments. I was very proud last night while watching a question and answer session from Ms. Levitt, the spokeswoman for Donald Trump. She is as sharp as a tack. And she sees when the press tries to come through left field and try to entrap her. That is why our country is getting made greater than what it is. But don't let things fool you, because people who think they're young, smart, and have these innovative ideas and try to change things also help destroy. Inadvertently, the younger generation is going after things that don't need to be fixed. The younger generation is telling people who are 60 and over, step aside, I'm taking over. And when they take over, what happens? Crash and burn. They do not pay attention to detail. They do not do, their own analysis. They rely upon a computer. It takes a successful person to do physical, on-hands analysis. And such analysis made by yourself comes to fruition. This is what is wrong with the youth today. Computers have failed them. Out and outright failed them. They do not have one inclination or iota what to do without that computer. And ladies and gentlemen, proof is in the pudding. Patrisse Cullors had major corporations bullshitted to give them hundreds of millions of dollars. Barack Hussein Obama, Eric Holder, Oprah Winfrey, Whoopi Goldberg bullshitted the United States of America, and those responsible bullshitted Hollywood. So again, in the end, what happens? Quicksand. They all fall into quicksand and they can't get out. And you watch and see. Mark my words, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, Kathleen Hawke Sawyer, BOP director formerly, former director Carvajal, BOP, Dodger, former director BOP, Warden Morris, Warden White, Miss Cadigan, hospital director in Farrington, New Jersey, for the BOP, Miss Easterling, the head of records in MDC Brooklyn, a Federal Bureau of Prisons facility, the warden, Associate Warden Enzor, and others who are of African descent will be made known that their racist organization named Black Lives Matter movement infiltrated and controlled and received money from people, and also took revenge on the Italian Americans in the Federal Bureau of Prisons by altering their files. Proof is in the pudding. In Rizzoli versus FCI Allenwood et al., 225 Fed 3rd, 650, 3rd Circuit, 2001, reverse and remand. February 2008, an illegal surgical procedure authorized by Barack Hussein Obama, Eric Holder, and the BOP director, which now Kevin Rizzoli cannot have children. 2010, an illegal arrest warrant again. 2012, an illegal conviction based upon false records in U.S. versus Rizzoli, 12 CR 550. tried before Denise Coate, an Obama appointee, and Damian Williams, a prosecutor who was appointed to U.S. Attorney after the prosecution of Kevin Rizzoli. And cover-up was done. And then you have Limon versus U.S. Department of Justice, implicating Valerie Caproni, a federal judge appointed by Barack Hussein Obama to cover up for the rogue FBI agents in U.S. versus Limon and Limon versus U.S. Department of Justice, 336 Fed Sub 2nd, 447, District of Massachusetts, 2004. Opinion, and a mountainous opinion, over 120 pages, admonishing Valerie Caproni, the FBI and the U.S. Department of Justice for illegally falsifying records and falsifying records to prove a murder on 3 people, 3 Italian Americans, that 2 of them died in prison, did not have nothing to do with. But Whitey Bulger, Frank Salemi, 2 top echelon rats, committed those murders, and the U.S. Department of Justice knew it. But to protect them, falsified murder evidence to put these men in jail, which died in prison, and only 1 lived. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the falsification of documents is there. The appointments to cover up the iniquities of rogue FBI agents is there. The evidence to cover up the application of COINTELPRO and Project M on the Italian American community within the Federal Bureau of Prisons and state prisons is there. And Barack Hussein Obama appointed Valerie Caproni, a judge, to cover up her iniquities that she committed in the U.S. Department of Justice, covering up for Greg Scarpa Sr., Whitey Bulger, Frank Salemi, Mark Rossetti, and others, and people who are working still undercover, recruiting and compromising people to be recruited as top echelon rats. And these are key figures allegedly in different gang-related organizations. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. Constitution is knowingly violated because COINTELPRO and Project M was ordered by federal Court of Appeals judges and D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals to be cease and desist since it was deemed unconstitutional. People want to talk about President Trump violating the law. Look at Barack Hussein Obama, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, Joe Biden, former AG Garland, and others who are under him. And look at Damian Williams and Preet Bharara of the Southern District of New York and Judge Denise Coate, who circumvented their ABA Code of Ethics to appease and cover up for Kevin Rizzoli's appeal, cover up this trial, which was used to silence him and to impede the FOIA complaint that is under investigation today by the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, Rizzoli versus the Executive Office, U.S. Attorney et al., Second Circuit docket number 25-1580. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we are grounded. The Italian Americans seek reparation. And that reparation was filed in the Middle District of Pennsylvania years ago and covered up. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Middle District of Pennsylvania is Joe Biden's stronghold. So again, another cover-up in another federal court jurisdiction before Judge Kosick and Judge Vanaski. So again, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. God bless America. God bless our dear President and Vice President and his cabinet. And most of all, God bless the soldiers and their families who don't have them, and those overseas and on the shores here domestically that are trying to quell the communist uprisings and the religious and ethnic anti-Semitism from the Islamic community, not all, but some Islamic community members who are trying to stage a holy war within the United States shores and change it into an Islamic republic, which is not the case. We are a democratic and Christian country. Thank you very much.